Just because the curtain has closed on USF's production of Cinderella does not mean that all is quiet in the theater department. We turn to College Week's Stephanie Chmielewski for more on the story.
Even with the school year winding down, there are still a few shows left to catch for fans of USF theater. One of those shows is James Meyer's senior project entitled Plans, which played this last week in the Jones Theater on the USF campus.
There's a doctor out there with a whack haircut.
The 25-minute one-man show is made up of 6 different monologues from various playwrights, compiled and performed by Myers with his own twist. Myers says he got the idea for the show from everyday life.
I just kind of was like, what do I plan to do with my life? And I didn't really have the answer, and I was like, gosh, planning is something we all have to do. We do it in life every day. So it's like, you know what? I'm going to plan my show on plans.
Haley Ward, who also put on a one-woman show earlier this month, gives us her impression.
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really interesting perspective on a look at a senior show and how to take the next step. My favorite part was the Batman monologue and the lightsaber part, when he was just running around with the lightsabers and was like, hanging out and playing with the lightsabers. I was like, that right there is Jimmy all the way. Just goofy and fun.
Myers says the show was fun to put on, but was also a lot of hard work.
Trying to pick my pieces and find out who I'm going to have run my lights and my sound and my drumming. But I mean, I had the time to do it. It just took me a while to find the ones I wanted. That was the hardest part, is finding what I wanted to do, the pieces I needed, and how to put it all together and make it cohesive into one show.
For USF College Week, I'm Stephanie Chmielewski.
Your last chance to catch a USF theater production will be the 12th through the 14th, as USF hosts one acts in the Jones Theater.
Not only can college be tough with papers to write and tests to study for, but being an athlete can also be stressful. Joshua Duncan takes a look at how some students survive it all.
These guys may have the hardest job of all college students, so how do they balance their athletics and schoolwork?
As a student athlete, keeping sport participation takes up a lot of time and energy away from school. Sometimes it's hard for students to balance between these two and resulting in dropping of grades and performance. The way I manage this problem is to try to manage well on my schedule.
But along with maintaining a schedule, some professors and coaches also keep their student athletes on the ball.
One of the big things that our athletic teams do is that they have grade reports are mandatory, either weekly or bi-weekly, where an athlete needs to communicate with their professors, and that professor will, hopefully, it's not required of professors, we hope that they participate in this, would fill out the grade report and say this is where their grade is at this point in time. And then as coaches, and I can only speak for the track and field squad, but I know other teams are doing this also, then they sit down with the coach, and if there's any major discrepancies or major concerns that are presented on that weekly or bi-weekly report, then the coaches step in and say, hey, what can we do here? Is this because you're not getting to class, or is this because the content is more difficult or harder to understand than what you have presumed it would be? And so that's the point. So there's some really in-depth checking that goes on from the coaching perspective.
And if grades do become a problem, there are consequences.
Also, as a student athlete, you can only compete if you have a certain grade point average. And so competition, you'd be considered ineligible if your grade point average is below a certain point, and based on the time of year. And so that's another means of helping our student athletes stay within a good grade point average and making sure that they're in class.
And while it gets busy, both jobs have to be completed.
Well, during the season it does get pretty busy, but that practices early enough and gets done early enough as well that I have most of my nights and Sundays to work on my homework and catch up with studies and just get anything done that I need to get done.
You just gotta put time aside at the end of the nights, and you gotta just get it done, And you're gonna miss class, and you gotta make sure you email those teachers, and you make sure that everything is coordinated, and that they're on the same page as you, and that you're on the same page as them. And you gotta just pound out that homework. You gotta get it done, and you gotta put hours in on Saturday, and you gotta put hours out on Sunday, the Sabbath. And you just gotta do it. I mean, that's basically what it is. When people aren't getting their stuff done, it's because they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. If they just focus and get it done, they'll be fine.
For the most part, even though it's tough, the Cougars are getting the job done.
Over the past 3 to 4 years, our grade point averages for student athletes have increased on average, probably by 2 to 3 points in regards to having, I think our football team is required, and the goal was a 2.75 for everyone on the team. Now they could still compete if they didn't have that based on NAIA regulations, but our coaches are very adamant about that, and our track and field team is also, we're seeing an increased grade point averages of the students that are coming in. One thing that's going to continue to prompt that is that when we transition to Division II, the scholarship opportunities for students with better grades are much greater at that level. And so that's also going to continue to prompt our student athletes to receive and pursue better grades as they come in, and then stay with those and try to work on those grades, keeping them up during the school year once they're here and in competition.
So while they're doing incredible stuff like this, remember, they also have the same homework assigned as you do. For College Week, I'm Joshua Duncan.
After the snow melted this spring, one hangout location was left inaccessible for college students. With more on the story, here's Lindsay Tullis.
Over the years, frisbee golf has become one of the major activities with college-aged people. In Sioux Falls alone, there are 3 locations for people to play. Over the past 2 years, the Big Sioux Recreation Area in Brandon has been looking to expand their 9-hole course into a full 18-hole course. But Jason Bauman, the Big Sioux manager, says this year has been causing more problems than any year before. But he is optimistic that he will have the course open by the middle of May.
Well, the last 2 years, we haven't had any flooding, so it was up and running early. I mean, as soon as the snow melted, it was playable. Unfortunately, this year we did have some flooding, which is not unusual for this area. So this year it's a little bit later, and we've been getting some rain. So hopefully by the end of the week we'll have half the course open, and hopefully here next couple weeks have the whole thing. So I guess my goal is open house weekend, usually middle of May is the plan to get everything up and running.
Joshua Dockler, who heard about the Big Sioux Recreation course last year, says that despite the setback, he is anxious to get out and play.
I have actually heard about it last year towards fall before the snow. I never got a chance to go out with my work and school schedule. I was going to go out there today, but I called in advance just to see if they had gotten their pins back up, and turns out that they haven't, so I wasn't able to today, unfortunately.
Now with the river back to its normal level and the course being closer every day to being open, Toy Klungerbo says he is excited for the course to be open again.
You know what, yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, I've been waiting a long time for it to open up. We've had such nice weather here that I've just been ready to get out there and start chucking my disc around, so I'm really excited, yeah.
For USF College Week, I'm Lindsay Tullis.
Coming up after the break, Joshua Duncan sits down with Kristen Fick on Crosstalk. We'll be right back.